Hi, this is Excel Chapter 9, Independent Project 9.5. Get up here, 9.5. This is movie number 1, and I'm starting off again on the SimNet screen just to draw your attention to the fact that in addition to the instructions, in addition to the start file, there's a resource file. So if you click on resources, and if I look down here in my tray, you see the zipper on the folder. That means it's a zipped or compressed folder. I need to click on that. When I bring it up, do you see it has the extract all? Extract, that's your clue that you're looking at something that's not usable. So I need to click on this and say extract all. It'll put it in that folder, extract. Now it's something that is usable. And when I go back to my folder, once again, you'll see there's a 9.5 that has a zipper and a 9.5 that doesn't. You want to make sure you hone in on the one that does not have the zipper. Those are the files that you can actually use. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up my instructions and just read this. So I want to bring up the file with your name on it. I need to enable it. So this is the file we're going to be working in, but we're going to be pulling macros from the other file. So I need to open that. So that was in my resources. So if I go to my folder, I want to find my 9.5 resources without the zipper. Go into that. There should be another subfolder, and there's our Excel 9.5 macros file. So we're going to open that, and we're going to do the same thing on this one where we're going to bounce between these. We're going to enable it. So I'm going to bounce between the file that has the macros and the file where we're creating things. Okay, so we want to talk a little bit about relative reference when we're talking about macros. So if you remember from our 9.3 file, when we were looking at the macros, let me just pull that up. So when we had this Clemson macros open and we went to the macros, and let's just say I'm going to edit this one. Do you see how when we have the select, it has a specific cell address in there? We're going to go to A3. We're going to go to A6. So it doesn't matter where I initiate this macro from. This range A3 select is going to take me to A3. That is an absolute reference to A3. But there are times where you want to have a macro run from wherever you're at. Like you don't want to go somewhere else. You want to be at this spot. And that is this whole relative reference. So when you set up a macro and you use relative reference, you need to position yourself at the spot where you want this action to happen, because it's not going to take you anywhere else. It's going to derive the steps from wherever your active cell is. So it's you have to think a little bit more about what you're doing. So the other thing about this relative reference is once you click it on, it's on, okay? And these instructions can be a little confusing because it has you go and like click it again, but if it's already on, you don't need to click it again because then you're turning it off, right? So look at this where it says use relative reference. There's no highlighting on it. That means it is off. So if I started a macro and I clicked in cell K2, it's going to actually put the letters K2, the cell address K2. If I click on this and you see the gray behind it, that means wherever I'm at, it's going to positionally build that macro. it will stay that way until I click to turn it off again, right? So you always just want to visually look and see, are my relative references on, which is gray behind it, or off, where there's no shading, okay? So we want to select A1. Let's just make sure what file we're in. So we want to begin this process in the macro file, right? So relative reference, see, it's on. Select A1 in the only sheet I have, sheet 1. All right, we're going to record a macro with relative references. So let's just go through what we're doing. We're going to create a macro called titles. We're going to attach it to the key combination Control-Shift-T and put this description in. Then we're going to type the word activities, right arrow key, calories, right arrow key, times, right arrow key, burned, right arrow key, and then left to go back 4 times to return to activities. We're going to select those cells and apply bold and italic and stop the recording. So these 4 cells is what we're creating. Now remember, wherever we're doing it happens to be in A1, but we're doing this using relative reference. So if I, in the future, start this macro somewhere else, it's going to put those 4 cells, populate those 4 cells in wherever I'm sitting. All right, so let's go ahead and start building it. So we go to Developers and Record Macro. So this first start is just our documentation, right? So it's titles, and then Control-Shift-T, Shift-T, sorry. This workbook, and it's going to be called Enter Column Titles. And then OK. Remember, once I hit OK, it starts recording, and I can stop it either here or at the bottom. So we're going to type the word activities, tab, or right arrow key, calories, right arrow key, times, right arrow key, burned, right arrow key, and then left 4 times. 1, 2, 3, 4. It leaves us on activity. We're going to select cells A1 through D1, home, bold, italic, and then I'm not on the developer tab anymore, so I'm going to use this button at the bottom to stop recording. Cool. Macros recorded. We're going to start another one. So look at this one. We're going to select A4. Once again, we're in relative, so selecting A4 is meaningless. Record a macro, activities, Control-Shift-A, enter activities, and then we're going to type these, pressing enter between each of them, and then stop recording. So I'm going to record. It's going to be called activities. It is a Shift-A down here, Shift-A, and then enter activities as the description. Once I hit OK, it's going to start, and I'm going to type dance fusion, enter, high intensity interval, enter, Pilates, yoga, enter, running, enter, strength training, enter, swimming, enter, water aerobics, enter, stop my recording. Okay, so now I have 2 macros. Select F1, and we're going to type the word titles macro. So this is our documentation here. We don't want bold and italic, so we're going to take that off. We're going to select F2 and we're going to type the words Control Shift T. So that's telling you for the titles macro what you need to hit. And then select F4. Sorry, I need to scroll this down. We're going to select F4 and type, okay, well that looks yummy. Okay. We're going to type, what do we type in? Activities. Activities, macro. Enter. And then type Control Shift A in F5. So I'm gonna, let's see, I'm gonna stop the macro at this point, the recording at this point, and we'll pick up here at step 10 when we're starting to edit it. All right, thank you.